Okay, we ready to go?
We are.
Okay, I'm going to introduce you.
Are you? Okay, shoot.
Yeah, you wrote out the introduction, so
Oh, even better.
welcome everyone to our monthly Collaborex workshop. If you haven't done one, we encourage you to raise your hand and volunteer. So here today we have Pierce on my left and Tyler on my right. It's probably not the same on your screen, but they are related. Um, and they have joined forces to launch a new platform designed to bring custom AI powered workflow automation tools to small and medium-sized businesses and solopreneurs. And Pierce brings over 30 years of software design experience, and Tyler brings over 8 years of workflow and analytics experience working in fintech operations. Together, they're launching Synchrobots. Did I pronounce that right?
That's correct.
Platform to manage and monitor business automation workflows. And I'm excited to hear about this because it's so out of my knowledge base that every word they say will be instructional for me. So welcome.
Excellent. Thanks, Jonathan. I'm going to jump into a little screen share here. We're going to have some interactive moments. We're going to do a little bit of presenting, and we're going to do some live demonstrations and Q&A and get everybody's kind of input. So we're looking forward to this conversation today. I'm looking forward to sharing some of what we're doing, what we're experiencing, and kind of share some of our learnings, which it's all still very early on in this technology, but it's a combination of technologies that we're using that kind of differentiates a little bit with what we're doing. So okay. So this is a nice little picture in the background. There's a big wave in the background you can kind of see. And really, I think when we think about this, um, one thing to kind of keep in mind is with AI, as sort of a big wave that's coming, we want to learn to sort of surf that wave as opposed to getting smushed by it or displaced in some way. And that's really what we're trying to do, what I'm trying to do, and Tyler and I have been working with people is to really help them um, utilize all this new technology that's coming out and make their lives easier and better. And the title of this is work on what you love and automate the rest, which is really about the important part of this is really there's so much that we can do to kind of automate sort of the busy work of business that can really allow you to stay focused on the things that really do excite you about what you do. And so that's really what we're aiming to do here. Jonathan gave a nice introduction, so there's not too much more to go over here, but that fellow there is me, and this is the younger version, much better. And we both have experience in both. I mean, we both worked with startups. We both worked with big organizations. So we've kind of seen the whole spectrum of this. I've been doing application work for large, big enterprise projects as well as small businesses, and everything in between. And Tyler has done the same. He worked with J.P. Morgan and a number of crypto startups doing analytics, like Jonathan was saying, analytics and workflow automation. What we're talking about, my business is called Strategic Database Systems. Tyler's is Digital Sprint Studio, and we are releasing together something called Synchrobots, which is really it's sort of an ecosystem, but in the center of it is a platform that helps us manage all of these workflows for clients, and it makes it more accessible to more businesses. So I wanted to start off with just kind of getting people's feedback, like how are you using AI today? Are you using any workflow automation tools? And what are you automating? And if you want, I can, if there's anything if you don't know what workflow automation, I can kind of talk about what that is. Um, and but just sort of speak up or put something in the chat if you have any tools that you're using currently and how you might be using them. I know most people are already using chat in some ways. Don't be shy. Okay, using chat for marketing content and agenda creation, idea creation. Yep. Using it for agendas. Okay, Suzanne, I haven't tried workflow yet. Workflow automation is something that's been around for actually for a long time, and it's sort of evolved, and it's really picked up steam recently. And Tyler will show you one of the tools that we're using to do that, and it's essentially it's really a series of if-then sort of statements, but it's done in a graphical way, and it's evolved. So it used to be sort of many years ago, it used to just be sort of like if-then within a specific programming language. Now it's if-thens in in really tying into all the different platforms that you might have. So if you might be using Trello, and you might be using Slack, you might be using, Gmail, all these different tools. So it allows you to kind of do these scenarios and drop off and hit those different tools. And it allows you to automate these fairly complex logic flows. And so we'll talk about that today a little bit. And we'll also talk about where AI comes in the picture. They're two different things. AI is different than workflow. When you're going to AI and you go to chat and you're asking it a question for, let's say, ideas for marketing and things like that. That's one thing, but in a workflow, it's really taking a business process and saying, here's the whole flow, and these are the options that take place during this flow, and these are things we can do. Now, the hybrid is where we take AI and we start to inject that into that workflow, and that's what makes it really powerful and interesting, and we'll talk about that a little bit more today. Let's see what else we have. I live with my BFF chat and have not applied it to workflow at all. Okay. Thanks, Ricky. And then using chat for ideas and content, making SEO friendly. I've not used it in workflow. I use everything from optimizing a calendar to creating content, correct, and new lead management, calendar appointments, reminders. Laura, I have workflows, but don't use AI with that. Okay, great. So you have a little bit of background in that already, and we can talk about where and how the AI piece fits in. Excellent. Well, thanks so much for that. Great. So we're all kind of using it in the next phase when we start talking about workflows, is starting to leverage it in a little bit of a different way. So the challenge is really the cost of manual processes. Well, a lot of people are using a lot of tools. We all have all these off-the-shelf tools, whether it's Salesforce or whatever you might be using, Slack, Gmail, or everybody's using Gmail more or less, or Outlook. So there's all these tools that we use, and they don't always integrate really well. And a lot of times you're talking copying and paste from one to the other. And so we have a lot of sort of siloed pieces of information, and they're not really talking. And I think in smaller businesses that happens more frequently, where they don't talk to each other as well as they could. And we don't want things, slipping through the cracks. Did I send that invoice? Things like that. And that can weigh on us in business, like all these little details. So if we can find tools that can help worry about the details, that really does free us up to do better things. And it can definitely reduce significant amounts of time depending on how operations heavy your business is, and really helps you to focus on the things that you do best, and as well as scaling, because you can scale up without increment without the cost being that much more incremental in terms of as you scale your business. So it allows you to take on more business. Um, and so, what it is, it's part of it is part of the workflow is really using these tools to talk with one another, and let that happen automatically. And so, and also the sort of logic. If this in this case, if this happens, this is what we're going to do. A new form comes in, we create tasks. Let's say we might send out three different tasks. If let's say you get a new project, and automatically it can send in information to three people, knows who should get what and what piece of the pie they're going to have, and you can even be putting those Slack messages, but you can also be putting them into your project management system. So these new tools really allow you to integrate deeply with these different platforms. And there's a new technology out now that's just coming out that is just in sort of in its infancy, but it's a whole. If you think of like HTML, well, it's like HTML. It's a language for AI to talk with other platforms, and that's going to be. I think it's going to take this even further because it's a little bit more of a direct line between AI and platforms out there. So that's going to be a big factor going forward. So obviously, we save time, less mistakes. You get clients get faster, smoother communications. They're getting more automatically, and you're scaling without overhead. So it's just, again, all these advantages to this. And now I'm going to turn it over to Tyler, who's going to walk us through a couple of case studies. We are doing this kind of work for a number of clients right now. And we'll talk you through some of them are theoretical and some are things we're actually doing in terms of work in this area. And then, as I said, then we'll do some demo of some live work. Take it away, Ty.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, so I want to walk you guys through three different case studies that we have, just to kind of get your brains rolling, kind of ideas. Like this by no means is what we're limited to and things that you can automate, but I think these are kind of three good base layers to kind of get the ideas moving in your head. So the first thing we'll go through is a lead qualification system. So if you think about before you automate this process, you'll normally have a static form, basically like a Google form, which I don't like because it's static. It's not interactive. When your clients use it, they're not getting like a really great feedback, and a lot of the times you'll get kind of half-baked answers in this. And if you've really built out this form quite intensively, you might get a generic email that gets sent off that says, "Oh, thank you for filling out this form," and then you have to remember to follow up with your clients afterwards. Like I've personally run into this issue where I had a static form on my website where it was set up fine. People were filling it out, but I had set up the process of messages getting sent to me where they were just kind of going unnoticed. So people were filling out the form, but I wasn't getting these notifications. So just leads were falling through the cracks in this situation. And that's a pretty common occurrence that can happen to you. And so if we go to after automation, if we're implementing automation, what we've done is created a lead qualification chatbot. So instead of your kind of traditional static form, our users will now get an interactive experience where they're talking, they feel like they're talking to a human almost, where the AI is it understands your business. We implement a lot of knowledge, or we understand your business, and we input it into the AI. And if a user gives a bad answer, then the chatbot will know to dig deeper and ask more relevant questions. Then throughout this process, we're qualifying the lead, so we're scoring this lead. So if it turns out that they're a great fit, we can send them down the happy path. And if it turns out they're a bad fit, we can say, thanks, but I don't think you're actually the right fit for us right now. So we can really tune this into exactly however you want it. So let's say, for example, on the happy path, you want them to book a call with you, or on the other side, you want to send them, they're a great fit, they fit this exact product for you. You can send them right to your checkout page and say, this is the product that we think really matches your needs right now. And then on the other side of it, oh, let's send them down like they're not actually a good fit right now. So let's nurture this lead. Let's add them to our newsletter. Let's kind of just work on this lead for the future. That's kind of the first thing that we could think of is changing like a static form to a more interactive dynamic form that knows your business and can grow and really interact with your customers for you. That's the first case study. And so now if we kind of think of it, so now we've set the base with the lead qualification system. So now your base is set. The next phase would be client onboarding. So before automation, you have this back and forth with your client. Emails are kind of going back and forth, and then you finally have all the relevant information. Now, now that that's all done, you have to go through, start creating your folders, adding tasks to your project management system, maybe send them a welcome message, and whatever you personally do for your onboarding process. The issue with this, again, is that it can be inconsistent. You might have one customer that has an incredible experience. They say, wow, that was the best onboarding experience I've ever had. And then literally within the next week, you might have another client that says, oh, you actually forgot to add me to that Slack group. So the problem without automation is that things can be inconsistent and a lot of things can end up falling through the cracks, which is really just a headache. And so not only does it weigh on you, but it can weigh on your customers if you don't have these kinds of things automated. And so if you think of after automation, what we're looking for is like a trigger event. So you've had this back and forth with your client, they signed the contract, and now this would be kind of considered a trigger event. So now the automation kicks off, you're getting folders created for you automatically, your tasks are getting added to your project management system, they're getting added to Slack and team groups as needed, and then all this great information that you just have happened automatically can get sent to them in a personalized email. So now they get a welcome email that says, thank you, like here's all the relevant links, and now they're getting this consistent process for every single client that they get. It's consistent and personalized. And then the last step, or the last case study I'll go through is meeting minutes. So this is something that I absolutely hated doing at JP Morgan, was just kind of being the note taker during meetings. So before, and everybody knows this with the Fathoms of the world now that you have all these note takers in there, but before you'd have to kind of personally transcribe all the notes and just kind of try to keep up with the conversation, the dialogues that are going on. A lot of the times I would be in meetings and I would be writing something down, and then a new point would be spoken about, and then I'd have to kind of start just furiously writing, trying to keep up with everything that's going on. And a lot of the times, the actual important stuff, I wouldn't take note of, or just wouldn't kind of, it would go above my head that this was actually a relevant thing to be taken down. But now with automation, you guys know about the Fathoms and whatnot. So these meetings are automatically transcribed. But really, where we can kind of improve with this is that now instead of just having these notes, we can take these notes and split them up and have them go wherever you need it. So let's say, for example, you're in a call, and one of the follow-up actions is to send an email to a client. Instead of having to remember to send that email, we can set up automations where you'll finish the meeting, and if you look into your Gmail draft, the Gmail inbox, there'll be a draft ready to go to that person saying all the relevant details, and everything is just ready for your review to send out to that customer for you. So we can really just kind of improve that process by not only just like you now have better notes, but instead of the notes are now going that extra mile. They're doing the things that are being spoken about in the meeting. Your project management system is getting updated automatically in these cases.
We're doing
So
that.
those,
We do that with the client right now, where it's a more of a clinical situation with the counseling, and in both group sessions, group therapy, and individual one-on-one counseling sessions, those are recorded, and we're targeting all sorts of things. There's clinical notes that get written. There's feedback that goes to the end client that says, here's things that you could, based on our conversation, here's things that you could be doing. Summary data is being sent to people in the supervisory sort of chain going up. So there may be one event, but it's triggering all sorts of like 3 or 4 different pieces out of it, and you can instruct we'll talk about this a little bit later, but like it's not just, when we're on chat and we're doing these things, you're kind of like feeding us some data, but it's not just that one instance or that one question. It's really feeding it all sorts of other data, which is like, this is the methodology, the counseling methodology we're using. These are the outcomes we're looking for. This is the way we want the notes to be formatted. So the more that you tell, and you've probably, anybody who's working with chat knows this, the more you tell it, the smarter it gets and the more effective the output is. And so it's important, and we'll talk about that. And that's kind of where the database side comes into play, because we can load a lot of, in addition to a conversation, there can be a lot of data that's loaded in behind the scenes that helps that bot in that case both behave the way you want it to behave and come up with the outcomes that you're looking to come up with.
Perfect.
Now Tyler's going to take us on a little tour.
Thank you. Thank you for that much better explanation as well. Let me pull up the screen share. So what I'm going to walk you through now is our lead qualification chatbot. So what I'll do is I'll show you the chatbot, show you what's going on behind the scenes, and then show you just how quickly we can customize it, and really just get an idea of how custom this can be. Like this will just be kind of like a base layer of customization. But if you think we can really personalize this more specifically to your business. So just kind of fill this out real quick. So this is just basic introduction message that would kick off every time. And so let's say, let's begin. And then so in the background, I've set this to have the persona of a fitness coach. And so the questions that it's going to ask are more based on that kind of mindset. So, hi, I help busy executives overcome challenges like no time for fitness, low energy levels, and stress eating. I'll ask you 3 to 4 quick questions to see if we can help, and this takes about 2 minutes. What's your biggest challenge with your fitness routine right now? Say lack of time. And so in the, actually, I'll wait a sec, go through that. So thank you for sharing. The lack of time is your biggest challenge. What would success look like for you in overcoming this? Where do you want to be in your fitness routine in the next 3 to 6 months? So in a typical form, somebody could just say not sure to this, and then that would just be that answer that they give, and nothing kind of goes past that at this point. Or you would have to kind of look through each of those um, answers to understand that, okay, maybe they gave a bad answer. But with this chatbot, what it'll do is understand that, okay, that actually wasn't a good answer. So let's dig into it a little bit more. So if you had one specific goal for your fitness journey, the next 3 to 6 months, would it be consistent workouts, more energy throughout the day, or managing stress through healthier habits? So now it's kind of doing that next level thinking for you instead of just accepting whatever answer you want. And we can personalize this and tune this up or down for whether you want to accept more answers or you want to be very rigid in your responses. And so we can just say consistent workouts. So that's just a basic demo there. We'll kind of let that run in the background. And so I'll show you now what exactly what exactly a workflow would look like, or what this workflow looks like. So this would be an AI workflow. So what we have here is, if you kind of think of it, this is like the trigger events that we talked about. So we're waiting, we're looking for a response here. We're doing some kind of cleaning the data. We're getting relevant information from our database. But then here is the key part. So this is where the AI is coming into play. So we're taking in that answer that they've given us, and we're applying all that background knowledge that we want to give it. So we've built out these more comprehensive prompts. So we're kind of looking into all these different things. And then based on the answer that it receives, it knows whether to do kind of send it down one of these paths. And then based on what that decision is, we kick it out, whether it should be saved, whether the agent should pivot, whether it should accelerate to the end, or all these kind of different situations that we could kind of think of. If we jump back here. So that's just a brief look into that. So want to look, if you think about this, this is an AI workflow. And if you want to think of a more simple workflow, which is probably where I should have started. So this is more of your kind of traditional workflow. So something happens, there's no AI involved. You just want this to happen. So in this situation, what this is doing, this is for when you're logging in. So in that first screen, right here, we're passing that login information. So we pass the first name, the last name, and the email. And so in this situation, we get that information here. We want to add it, or we're creating a row in our database, and then we're kind of just doing these little modifications to that data. So it's pretty much, it's very simple. There's no AI telling it what to do. You're just kind of saying this happens, this happens, this happens. Whereas this case, something happens, you want AI to kind of ingest it and understand it, and then do something with it afterwards. That's a high level the AI workflow. And I'll show you briefly our Synchrobots platform. So what I had before was a health and fitness coach. And so now we can change it. And these are just kind of personas that we've pre-built. Like for your business, this would be much more specific, and we would apply a lot more information to it. But just to kind of show you the difference in the responses, let's say it's a business systems coach now. If we go in here, add a shorter email now. We kick this off. And so the questions haven't changed in this situation, but the way that it asks the questions will now be different. So it helps service business overcome challenges. So now the question is, what's your biggest challenge with operations right now? So now you have a completely different kind of question that it's asking, and it'll now accept different answers. So if I say now something about fitness, it'll completely disregard that. That'll be an irrelevant answer for it. So it won't take that in. So let's just say scaling. But this is just to kind of show you how quickly we can customize these things and how personalized each of these customizations can be. And I'll kind of jump ahead here and just show you at the end of it, we can kick out these really nicely formatted emails, letting you know whether you could send these out directly to your customers after they've finished the lead qualification, or send them to yourselves to see exactly how this person has filled out the form for you. So in this situation, they're highly qualified. Their primary pain is staying consistent with fitness routines, having more energy in their daily life. And so it just kind of gives you all that summarized data for you. So it's just gets directly sent to your email. Any questions on this?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Thank you, by the way. This is great, Tyler. And you too, Pierce. So the information, the data that comes in initially for, say, an onboarding business coach or fitness trainer, does the automation already know where to place it as far as storage, folders, or how does that work?
Yeah. So it depends on how you want to set it up. So in our system, we have this set up where each of these questions we can kind of show it on a bot run here. So each question we'll have that answer saved directly into the database for you. So that's kind of the power. And I could let my dad kind of speak more to this.
So
The,
yeah, so it depends on what we're integrating, but we're always going to take this information, Kismic, and store it in the appropriate place. So if you have an off-the-shelf CRM system, we're going to put this record right into the CRM system. It's going to come in as a hot lead. We're going to hit your, let's say, Gmail, and we're going to send you a message that says hot lead just came in. And so whatever, if there's a series of to-dos, let's say somebody on the team is responsible for the follow-up call, right? So we would send them a message. We might put it in the project management system. They have a task now to follow up and call this person. So we're going to take, and that's part of sort of that's the work that we do in working with clients is to understand what is the totality of what needs to happen. And it's hard work on everybody's part, by the way, because not everybody's always systemized their whole operation, right? So it does force you to kind of think like, well, what's the ideal scenario? What are the 5 steps that happen? And as you walk through those things, the beauty of the platform like that we're using is called N8, and it basically everything's got an API now. So we have the ability to write that data to almost any platform. Typically, we'll write it back to the database just to have sort of centralized, what you would call a source of truth. It's a centralized place where we're keeping all of our data. But then we're also pushing it to whatever your tools that you're comfortable with using. And that's a big change. I mean, it used to be when I was doing this work 10 years ago, you kind of had to work within the database. You could push stuff out by API, but it wasn't so easy. Now it's a lot easier to integrate like 4 or 5 off-the-shelf tools and make them all really more cohesive in terms of how it works, and automated because it's just all going to happen automatically. And you could, the more you think through, you could say, hey, this person hasn't been no, the person hasn't sent the email out yet. You know, it's been 2 days. Then you put them on like a warning message, like, hey, you gotta reach out to this person. This is a hot lead. You can score the leads and say, put a whole logic behind the scoring. If it's a hot lead, that's going to get this action. If it's a warm lead, it's going to get this. If it's a cold lead, like Tyler's saying, we're going to put them into a different bucket where we're going to keep in contact with them, but we're going to nurture that lead over time. So it really does involve work on all parts because you have to kind of think through what are all these steps. But you think about, you can be sending out text messaging, you can be sending out emails, you can be putting stuff into, whatever your project management software is, your CRM system, your accounting system. One of these steps is going to be, hey, we're going to set up a new account because this is a brand new customer. We're going to set up a new account on the accounting system, and that can be done, that can be automated. And then anywhere along the line, it's important. You can pause, you can lay something up and then say, I want a human to review this before I go a step further. It doesn't all have to be like automated. You could decide what you want to have. You can queue things up, and then somebody could come into their to-dos for the day and see 5 things they need to review, and then decide, do I want to tweak this wording a little bit? So you make the decision as to how far you want to take full automation. Some things might be like, yeah, we want to have that. I want that email after the form is submitted. I want that thank you email going out right away. But there's a more thoughtful secondary step that we want to prep, but then have somebody review before they go ahead.
I love that. So as far as the storage is concerned, there's a way you can say, I want to do reporting. There's 30% of new leads answered 100% of the questions, or is there something like that, or
Sure.
Okay, I think
you can do analytics. That's why we put it all in the database, so you can do your analytics right off of that. Within our platform, external to the platform, whatever you need to do, however you want to handle that. And we're building that out now. Like there'll be on this Synchrobots platform, we'll have a generic dashboard for people. It will say, hey, these are all the leads you got. What are the sort of average normal things you wanted to know about that sort of transaction, how many people were qualified well, and that sort of thing. But then, like when we work with clients, it's always a series of then custom reporting that we would do. And again, that can be within our platform. It could be, on Power BI or whatever tool, Tableau, whatever tools that are, people want to use.
Thank you.
You can dig as deep as
Yeah.
with the
This
data, you can
sounds
dig as
great.
deep as you want. All sorts of longitudinal trend data and things like that. You can kind of geek out on that if that's what we
This
we
is
do that
amazing.
in some
This is,
cases. So there's a lot of geeking out, some very heavy analysis of this data.
thank you.
Yeah. And then just to kind of take it one step, just to show you one idea of this is that so we have spaced action, and so that is telling us what exactly we want to do with based on that answer that they provide. That's our way of identifying what path we want it to go on. So in this situation, we have it on a collect, and then so we jump here, we can see zoom in. One of the outputs here is collect. So in this situation, we're just creating a row in Supabase, but let's say, for example, you have ClickUp as your project management system. We could go in and say, actually, when this happens, we want to create a folder in ClickUp. And then
Okay.
really we can get this as personalized as you want. As long as the tools you're using have APIs, we can do basically whatever you'd want in that situation.
Right.
Thank
And
you.
what we're doing with right now with Synchrobots is we're building out a whole bunch of these sort of templated workflows that we can use to get people kickstarted. The idea is, and I've always wanted to, like, this is where I want to be, which is like, we want to help small businesses and solopreneurs. We don't want to, like, we've been in the corporate world, but we want to help. So the way we can make this and sort of democratize this technology is by creating sort of a library, a place of places to kick off from, to start from, so you're not starting from scratch each time. And we can take that, and then we'll take that and we peel that off, and then then we make it customized after that to make it specifically fit your situation. But to general workflow, these things happen in a general way, and it's going to address this operations pain point. We have those laid out ahead of time, and that's part of the whole Synchrobots thing. Is we have this library of these workflows. Jonathan.
So, if these workflows are pulling data from or taking action in some of the other programs that one might use, social media accounts or merchant services accounts or whatever, how does it deal with two-factor authentication when it would, I guess, log in, but then, it would need a number to enter and has to deal with that whole mess. Can it do
Tyler,
that?
I'll leave that to you.
Yeah, so it's a good question. So it very much depends on what systems you're interacting with, but a lot of the times, these systems will have APIs that you can interact with. And when you're talking with the APIs, you're more or less passing a code through that says I'm allowed to post on this user's behalf. So based on it's called like an API key. So basically it gives you a password to log into your system for you. I think that'd be the best way to describe it. But yeah, each system would kind of be different in that situation. But if it has an API, you're basically getting a password to the system post.
So without going too deep, and there's the technology that most APIs use is OAuth 2, which is an authorization scheme that goes back and forth. That happens behind the scenes. And that's way more secure than you typing in something. So it's a very secure protocol behind the scenes. So when you're talking API to API, there's already a whole layer of security underneath. There's a hidden key, and then there's a public key, and you're passing them back and forth, and then you authorize back and forth. So it's kind of like almost like an ATM transaction behind the scenes. So it's very secure, but it does not need that two-step authentication, because it's what's already doing. It's like a more secure version of authenticating.
Yeah. Do you usually go into businesses and just say, like, start with a broad question of, "Well, let's see what your systems are. What are you doing? What are your standard operating procedures?" And then say, oh, well, we can do this for you, and we can do this. We can automate this and this and this, versus the client not really knowing or hadn't really thought about what they do and what can be automated and what additional things they can do as a result of using AI workflows.
Um, I'll speak to that a little bit, Ty, and then certainly
Yeah.
your feedback. I think there's different. We're trying to get we're still early on in this, and we are working with early adopters. And we have an early adopter that we work with quite a lot, and he's always thinking he's a step ahead. Well, can AI do this? Can AI do that? Like he's already like figured out how he wants to AI his whole business. And so, that person is ahead of the curve, right? They're an early adopter. And I think the majority of people, they say there's three groups, but the majority of the people are in the second and third adoption layer. And so we're just trying to understand what resonates with people. And that's part of having this conversation. We'd love to get your thoughts, everybody's thoughts on what resonates. What do you think you could use it for? And, where should we be, where should we be angling our message? And, but I think a big part of it is that exactly what you're saying, Jonathan. It's just kind of like listening. Tell me about, from my initial thought is, what are some of your most operations work intensive things that you're doing now in your business that you'd rather not have to do if it could be done by automation and AI? I don't know if you have anything to
Yeah.
add to that.
Yeah, just probably not too much to add, more reiteration than anything. But there's basically like the two paths. There's you understand AI or workflow automation in a general sense, and you know exactly what you want to automate. And so that's one customer that we would have. Then the other customer is, let's have an automation audit. I'd say, like, so let's sit down for an hour. Like, let's go through all your processes. What are the things that you're doing um, that are driving you crazy? What's taking up a lot of your time? There could be something that happens like 60 times, but it only takes 30 minutes of your day. But maybe you have one process that takes up 5 hours of your day. So it's like really just identifying where's the pain in your business. Everybody's business is different. And so what the beauty of this is customizing it to actually be tailored to your business. So it's just really getting an understanding of what you're doing, and then from there we figure out what exactly can actually be automated. That's all.
Kiswick? Oh, you're muted.
You're muted.
I just said, I'm just excited. I'm excited because as an entrepreneur, solopreneur, whatever I am, I'm the one woman shop of different income streams. And it's like the workflow I have is not typical to like, someone who does XYZ. It's more, there's so many components to what I do. It's the gathering information out, giving the information out, telling the system to go through certain steps. But for me, I get frustrated with the bottleneck of it. How can I make it easier in transitioning from one task to another? And how can I make it quicker to get to the end results, get to the outcome, which is satisfying the customer or the client? And that's why I think that this is amazing because, for instance, with the administrative piece, I'll be working on a task to hand off to someone else. But in that task, there's 3 or 4 steps that I need to have happened before I can hand it off. And it's like an inconsistent flow to my workflow, and it's so frustrating.
Yeah, that's such a consistent issue too. It's like everybody has their tech stack, and then But the issue is that it's 5 different tools and they hardly ever actually integrate with each other. And so that's like the tool N8N is really great at connecting these tools and really kind of really like just connecting everything and having a flow. So you don't have to do all this start and stop, start and stop, start and stop.
Right.
Yeah. Pierce,
Okay.
would it be, I assume the conversations would be similar to the ones that we had when we created that
Yep.
dinosaur known as the portal.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's the same thing. It's a it's a conversation. What do what do you need? What do you need to be done? And understanding what the a big part, as I said before, is really understanding, well, what's the current manual workflow? And not everybody always has that optimized or figured out. And that's the first part. And because once you do that and you lay that out, then you can say, okay, we can replicate that. And this is how we would do it. I think the big change here is there's really there's a sort of a triangle. There's three pieces to what we do. There's the database side. That's my sort of bread and butter for years. There's the automation side, which is we use a tool primarily called N8N. And then there's the AI side, when we're using chat and Claude and other AI models for that. But it's the three of those working together that makes the magic kind of happen. But the first part is really understanding what are you doing? What data are you storing? What do your clients need? What's the communication going back and forth? And then other things that are like personas, like what's the style? What style? If we're going to build a chatbot, what style do you want to be sort of light and fun? You want to be serious? You want to be financial? Like there's all these different styles you can lay that in, and really even leveraging that further. Like this is I'm a financial planner. This is the methodology that I use, and you teach AI and you feed that methodology at the same time that you're going in. This is the style, the methodology, the persona. This is the kind of client that we want to work with. All those things. So the more that you feed in with AI, so we're taking that knowledge and you're working it with the workflow piece and then the integration piece, and then we're saying we're going to work with the 4 or 5 tools that you like to work with, off the shelf products that work really well. And the whole thing is the beauty of it is it minimizes the amount of sort of busy work, detail work that you have to do. And that's, and with AI, it's just, you want to work with it as much as possible, because you want to leverage that technology wherever you can in your business. And it does add a whole another level of intelligence to all of this workflow work, because it can make decisions on the fly. It can go back and ask it, think of your standard form. And a standard form comes in and they answer the question very poorly. That's what's coming into your database. That's what you got to read and figure out later. Also, sort of think about objective and subjective data. So historically, subjective data was a pain in the neck to deal with. So your best information when you do surveys and stuff is in the subjective. I want the paragraph long summary. What are your feelings? But that took a lot of manpower to read through that and figure that out and extract data. That now you hand that over to AI and you say, and you can tell it, I want you to pull these 3 specific fields out. We can pull a name out of a conversation and tie it back to a person. You can, there's always, I think people know the best example is sentiment analysis, which is saying, are they feeling positively, negatively? But there's so much more now that you can do in terms of taking subjective data and turning it into objective data. And that's a lot of what we're doing already, which is like taking sort of generic data and then filling in specific fields for, Kismet, back to the kind of the analytics conversation, we're able to those fields are much easier to do analysis on than big scale subjective data that comes in. So we're turning that data into actual data fields, and we're able to read listen to conversations and extract tasks and things like that out of that. So that's the future. It's really, there's so much more that's there now. And you just have to, and I would urge everybody to start talk. We're always available to talk about this. If you ever want to just have a conversation and just talk about how we might use this, we would love to talk to any of you to do that. But I urge you all to kind of think of the next step. We're all using chat in a certain way, and it's great for question and answer stuff. But think about it more in a larger context of what it could be doing and what decisions it could be making and working, how it could work for you. Those are all. It's very. It's a pretty exciting new time, and with what it can do, and really relieving you of a lot of the drudgery of work that you don't want to be doing. Spend time doing what you want to do. I can talk to a little bit of that. I don't know if it's interesting. I've got a couple more slides of like some of the tools we're using. I don't know if that's something you want to see or not. It's probably not.
I do.
Do
I'm
you?
such a nerd. I'm such a nerd.
Tyler, I mean, Tyler showed you the deep down stuff. I don't even get into that, but here, let me share my screen.
Pierce, I think this is really important because when we start our businesses, we have no operations and we have no clients. We just have ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that we're spending 100% of our time on, is the value
Yep.
that we're creating for the marketplace. And then
Yeah.
as that value gets picked up and people start to use it, then all of a sudden you have busy work and operations and you
Yep.
have clients that you have to service. And you end up spending like 90% of your time or on that other stuff. You figure, I service my clients, they'll pay me.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to ignore the things that created the growth in your business in the first place. So
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's very common that we get away from the things. All of a sudden, you wake up one day and you're like, "Wait, I used to love this business, and now it's like a pain in the neck." You get away from the things that you love. Yeah, for sure. I mean, so we sort of, I did this graph. It's kind of like to give you an idea of what we're working with. So on the front end, when you were asking the questions, when we were showing you asking the questions, the front end, we use something called Flutter Flow. It's one of many tools we use, but Flutter Flow is one of the tools that we use to do the front end work. The workflow automation, that sort of complex series of steps, that's N8N. It's similar to other tools. Make is another one. Probably Zapier is the most sort of famous one. Now, Zapier wasn't always a workflow tool. It was originally just an API connector, but now they put workflow in. So that's the two pieces of the puzzle: is the API connections and the workflow. So those are two things. We use chat. We use Claude. We'll try different models. It depends on the application. Different models have different strengths and speeds. So there's all different sort of things to mess around with there. We can integrate with N8N. We can integrate with thousands off the shelf, thousands of software pieces, software off the shelf software. Anything that has an API, whether it's in their library or not, we can interface with. So it's pretty easy to connect to things that are not, as long as they have an API, we can connect to just about anything. On the database side, we use a number of different databases. We use something called Supabase. We use Postgres. Postgres is actually underneath Supabase as well. Microsoft SQL servers, Azure SQL, and another tool that we use called PHP Runner, which is an application tool that does our backend work. So that does our backend office system. So when Tyler was showing you those rows and inside SyncRobots, that's a PHP Runner application, and we do analytics there as well. So those are all the pieces that kind of go into these ecosystems. So you have your front end, that's where your end user is interacting. You have your automations tool. You have your database. We're writing data back. We're integrating with third-party software. And then all that is being tracked and run in the database application, which is the Synchrobots platform. So that kind of lets us know and monitor, how are things going, and also tweak. It's really important. The tweak is a big piece. So what in our work, what we've learned is that you have these prompts that you're sending off, and you have this other, there's prompt data, there's question data, but the way you have to fiddle with the way questions are asked and with what data you're pushing in and test, and then you modify it and you test it. And with the database backend, we're able to do that really easily, and it's not a Tyler doesn't have to go into N8N, into that sort of complex thing you saw, and make changes in there as frequently, because we can open it up to our clients to go in there and just change the wording on their questions, and then see what the results are when we change the question a little bit or change the inputs a little bit. So it's very easy for you to create, when he was showing you the different personas, it's easy to create 4 or 5 different personas and say, well, let me try it this way with this persona or that persona, and see what kind of questions, what does the conversation look like. So it allows you to fine tune it to get really the results that you want. And then Tyler, let me just let you speak to this for a second. This is really the stages of automation from what we've been doing.
Yeah. Can you change the slide? I'm not seeing it.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, the how we do it, but it didn't go to the next one.
All right. How about this one?
Beautiful. Yep. So I'll just kind of run through this quickly. So if you think of it, this is the stages of automation. So this is how we approach automation and how you can kind of think about it in your own business. So step 1 is always understanding. So what we want to do in this process is understand your business and its pain points. So in this situation, we'd have an automation audit, really get to know what your business is and what exactly you're doing on a day-to-day basis. That's causing you to where your time is going. So that's the really the foundational part is understanding what exactly you're doing, where's your time going, and identifying, okay, we should work on all these different things, like your client onboarding, your lead qualification, identifying all these specific areas. And so once we have that, we go to stage 2, which is building. So now that we've identified the areas that need to be automated, we go into that. And so we're automating your onboarding, your lead qualification, we're tweaking, we're going through this process, we're implementing these new changes. And so now at the end of this phase, you have all these different automations kind of spread throughout your business. So now your onboarding is taken care of, your Zoom meetings are being recorded and being more useful. And then step 3 is where you get a pretty big jump in kind of value. And so that's where we're starting to connect these systems. So let's say you have your lead qualification bot, and then so it's identified that you have this perfect lead. And so now instead of just ending there, it'll kick off your client onboarding system. So now your client goes through, they answer all the questions, they're a great fit, and now your folders are getting created. They're kind of getting pushed through your process, and everything is starting now to click and really join with each other. And like we were saying with the Zoom recording, so that recording happens, and now those meeting minutes are being used throughout your business, and it's just kind of feeding your systems now. And so instead of having these kind of disparate system or disparate workflows and different tools that you're using, everything now is connected, and you have a system of automations, which is really the big benefit, or one of the big benefits. And then step 4 is kind of the transformation. So now that everything's talking to each other, your workflows are automated, you're starting to do the things that you like to do, and you're getting back to why you started your business. Like everything is working now. You can now spot trends, you can identify oh, actually, this is the kind of lead that really resonates with me. This is the kind of person I want to work with. Identified that this client actually isn't getting the attention that they should, or I'm about to lose this person for this reason. So you can start doing data analytics and really just kind of taking your foot off the pedal in this situation. Now your business is more or less running itself once you have all these automations in place. So that's kind of the way we think about it. So understand your business, start building, connect the systems, and then kind of reiterate, go back through and let's start tweaking these things.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone have some final questions? I know our
So
hour's up.
we're running out of time.
How do we get in touch with you? You said we can work with, I mean, I guess everybody's a collaborator, so never mind. We know how to do it.
Absolutely. Just shoot me an email or whatever, and we'll be glad to set up with anybody. If you want to take an hour or so, we can kind of talk about your business and look for opportunities where we can apply this technology and give you, an idea what it what it would cost. But it's definitely not out of reach, and we're designing it with that on purpose to make sure it's something that small and medium-sized businesses solopreneurs can do. So,
Okay, yeah, because I was going to ask, what's the price, or do you do subscriptions?
yes,
Okay,
we've. I mean, look, the starting build is about 2,500, and subscriptions starts at like 250 a month. But we're really looking to get use cases and samples, so we have flexibility on that. We have a lot of capacity right now, so we can find the right fit for everybody, just about.
perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So much to think about. Okay.
Awesome.
Good stuff.
Okay.
All right.
Tyler, thank
So
you.
long,
Nice
everybody.
to
Thank
meet
you.
Cheers, and
Nice to
Tyler.
meet you, Tyler. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Bye.
Thank you.